Start streaming. All right, today we're going to do a theme here. It takes a village. So I have this beautiful Christmas village here that we're going to stream in front of. And what do I mean by it takes a village? This is all about the independent repair community working together and sharing knowledge. So we're going to look at an iPhone 7 home button repair. And I've done a stream on iPhone 7 home button repair before where we diode mapped the connector and we found a fault under the turtle IC and had to run some micro jumpers because of a tear. And we take these iPhone home button jobs where Touch ID is working but home button is not working, or it's not working normally. And the expectation is that it's going to be a fault at the turtle IC there on the home button flex. But that's not always the case. It seems like there's quite a bit of tearing of the flex that happens. And these are tiny little micro tears. So the one that I have here seems to have a tear that we're going to try to fix. So let's start with a note. And what I want to do is share with you guys some really great work that was done by a couple of folks in the micro-soldering community that share their work publicly, and I have collected that stuff on the new iPad Rehab forum. So if you haven't checked out our new forum, I believe that I've set it up so that anybody can contribute, so that anybody can have a place if they do something amazing. If you diode map the iPhone 7 baseband CPU or something like that, and you want to share so that we can all work together to try to uncover these signature faults while we still have time to repair the devices before they get so old that they really lose their value. So check out our forum, and I'll be showing you that in a few minutes. But let's start with a note. This is from one of my favorite customers here, because she writes a ton of information on her report and then doesn't include the passcode. Drives me crazy. All right, so she says this is an iPhone 7 screen replacement done, and the home button wouldn't work properly post-repair, intermittently I should say. Fingerprint works 100%. The haptic vibration would vibrate super fast, as if it were being held down, and continuously have the vibrate going off. Removed, the home button would sometimes respond. Turn over. Was opened again and noticed that now the home button wouldn't respond anymore, but fingerprint function does work. I've seen weird things happening post-updating to iOS 11. Apparently everyone has issues, which we're now coming up with solutions for, but another thing I'm seeing post-opening screen replacements is the cable on the middle bottom of the home flex that sticks out just below the metal shield is being damaged when, I'm assuming, it's being closed up. It's being pinched by the metal bracket, gold ground next to the screw that's on the left side of the charge port. Hopefully all this makes sense. And sounds like she's got an iPhone 7 where the home button doesn't work. So let's check it out. So here is the phone here. And let's see. So let's press home. And we're not getting any function out of the home. Now I can't test fingerprint sensor or anything else because despite the 2 pages of written text, there's no password given. Actually, let me look that up and see if she responded. We usually send an automatic, hey, you didn't do a passcode. I'm going to check the ticket. All right, let me check the ticket in Repair Shopper. Love Repair Shopper. It collects all the information about the repair in one place. And passcode is blank. And let's see. She's got more detail here. Question, have you seen any iPhone 7s with a home button haptic issues after a screen replacement? Obviously, there's no visible damage to the button cable, she says. I've had 2 iPhone 7s in the past week. After I install the home button on the new screen, when you press the home button, it'll either intermittently respond or more commonly acts as if I'm repetitively pressing the button, and you feel the haptic vibration multiple times. Hard to explain without you actually being able to feel the continuous vibration. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. I've only noticed it the past week on 2 phones. Neither phone was updated to the new iOS, I don't believe. I'm waiting to hear if the customer from today did the update tonight. and if that resolved the issue or not. Also, both screens were aftermarket, but I've used the same screen for many customers without any issues till now. Please shed some light for me, and hopefully it's something simple, she says, and asking for an update and no passcode. Okay, so we are going to work on it anyway. So the phone will, let's click back over here. So here's the phone, and I can't unlock with the home button, but if at the lock screen, if I press the home button, so click, I get a vibrate. So unlock, vibrate, and then it's automatically put up the little home button assistive touch, which it's wanting me to enter the lock, the passcode. So it has touch, don't know the passcode. And that's the deal with this one. So let's see if we can take a look under the microscope at the home button itself and see what's going on.
Is there any reason to keep it? Probably no touch.
So I'm going to power this off. All right, Jessa, read the chat. Okay, great. Passcode. Well, it looks like it's asking for a 6-digit passcode. So you got a 6-digit passcode? Let's find out. All right, let's try it with the passcode. All right, let's see. iPhone 7 home button, cutting cable and soldering a new cable, always fun. You could try to access pictures via the camera, and the phone will hopefully vibrate from the Touch ID fail. How's your gallbladder doing? All quiet on the gallbladder front. All right, 6-digit passcode, so 1204 is not it. Need a 6-digit passcode. All right, she's going to go hunt down the passcode. Nevertheless, we are going to continue on and look at the home button here. All right, so let's take the screen off. All right, and we're going to look at the home button under the microscope. So microscope. Where's the microscope cam? Here we go. All right, so what's going on here at the home button? All right, so here is the turtle IC. And we're going to look at this and look for any signs of cable damage. All right, so here is the home button, seems to be connected okay. We're going to flip that open. And let's look at the connector itself. Seems okay. Now here in the past we've seen some tiny little micro tears right in this corner where some people will shove a set of tweezers under here and get a little tiny tear there. We've seen that a couple times. This one doesn't seem to have that tear. The turtle IC is here, which is what I initially thought would be the problem with a iPhone 7 that had fingerprint sensor but did not have home button function. And then let's look at the home button itself. And now let's look at the tiny flex. So this is the tiny flex that goes to this middle screw here. And we can see that there is a tear in the cable. So let's drill down on that. Let's move that. There we go. All right, let's look at this tear. All right, so we can see this cable has a tear right here. There's a tear in the cable, and then right here as well. So it's like almost like a notch is taken out of this cable. All right, so we're gonna pop this home button out so that we can really look at that. And I'll pull this over so that we can see kind of on the side. All right, so there we go. So there, that is our tear. So let's make that really clear so that we can see what we're dealing with. All right, so we can see that the cable is sliced right here. Right there, sliced and sliced. So about halfway through the cable. Let's make that really, right there. Sliced and sliced. All right, so it sounds like Amanda is telling us that she thinks this is happening from the bracket getting put on. So the screw in the bracket, that there's something pinching right there. Maybe that's true, I'm not sure, but that you want to be careful of. So be mindful and don't tear your flex. Okay, so what is going to be our approach to this? So we've got a tear on the home button trace. One option, and I think people should strongly consider this option, is that you have the option right now to put this home button back on the cracked screen and go to the Apple store and then say, hey, screen, I need a screen replacement, and then they will give you a new screen and new home button, put it in their magic machine, and program the home button to the motherboard. So there is a way out for everybody. You can go to the Apple store and you can get a new screen and a new home button. So there's not there's kind of limited value in being able to fix this home button. There are some cases of data recovery. For example, we had an iPhone 7 here that had a software fault that required update, and after update, it required the home button in order to complete the phone side of the update. So there may be some cases of data recovery where you do have to fix the home button. And we're trying as a community to figure out, is there a way to solve something that happens in the shop like this when you don't have time to go to the Apple store is not close by, you have to do mail-in repair, if we can get an answer of something that you could do with microsoldering to get this worked and fixing. Okay, so a bunch of people are saying hi on the chat. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at my good old eBay button. So I have used this a lot, and it didn't work, of course, from eBay because it doesn't have a fingerprint sensor chip, but it has led to a lot of information. So having something like this is a really great tool. So let's look and see, what does the home button look like? And you can see our tracks from our prior investigations. So in my other Turtle IC video, I diode moded this connector and tried to figure out what are these tiny little traces that are here. And I also took off the Turtle IC and diode moded around and figured out the connections between the balls under, or the pads under Turtle IC and the connector itself. So you can go watch that video, the Turtle IC video that we did. And then for this repair, we're going to investigate what is up with the traces that are going to be in the torn spot here. So before we do that, I want to show you guys what I'm talking about the It Takes a Village and community information. So let's click off the Microscope cam, and I'm going to take you over to the iPad Rehab forum, where we're going to collect information like this. So let's open up iPad Rehab forum. That is just YouTube. Let's see if I click here. Does that then? Yes, okay. So at iPad Rehab forum, so you can find your way here just by, I guess the easiest way would be to go to iPadRehab.com, and then from here you can go to the forum. And this is the forum, and you can see our different categories. So if you want to ask a question and have kind of hand-holding information on your particular repair, then you can sign up to be a subscriber. So you can figure out how to become a subscriber. You can log in and then post your question. But for everybody else, there's lots of people that just want a community hangout, a place to chat. So there's two categories here, which is the free place to chat, the industry hangout, and there's a bunch of just funny posts in there. And then this is the thing that I've started today. It takes a village, the community knowledge-based contributions. And I'll show you what I put in there. So I've collected from some work that was done recently by a couple of people. So two images that were shared publicly, so I decided to collect them here. And I think this is a great thing for all of us to contribute to when we do take these times. Like I diode moded the entire audio IC on iPhone 7, and everybody would like to have a place to access that information when you do these kinds of things and put time into it. All right, so, and of course, give credit to the original source. So let's look at this one first. So this is work that is an initial diagram was published by Wyman from Jilan in China, and Wyman has done some, trace mapping out, and he has this nice figure drawing of the iPhone 7 home button itself. Then recently, Bo Dorsey from iFix NC, he was troubleshooting a home button problem, and he overlaid a lot of connections and diode mode measurements on that flex. So let's see if we can see that kind of big. All right, let me check to make sure that followed. Okay, great. All right, somebody donated something, I think. All right, probably the usual I void warranty shirt. Yes, I void warranties. I void warranties. I void warranties. Available also from iPad Rehab Supply. Sunday, make sure you put those shirts up on iPad Rehab Supply. Okay, so let's look at this. What this images that is Bo Dorsey, who I love this, is kind of bouncing off of the idea that Wyman already posted. I love the working together. I love the community aspect here. All right, so let's look at what he has here. And you can see some diode mode measurements. They show up a little bit better on your computer. And then you can see that he has sort of mapped, okay, the home button, if you have a diode mode fault here on this pin, that it's going to connect here, and all of these little kind of, blue, red, green, all connect together. So we can see here from this picture that in the area on our device that we're trying to fix, that is the torn flex, that there's really a whole lot of probably ground. This looks like ground in the middle, ground. And then there are, on this side of the flex at least, 1, 2 possible torn traces. And then in the middle of the flex, maybe torn, maybe not, there is another one. And so we can kind of see from this nice picture what we're going to expect. And that maybe we could just run a jumper from down here at one of these components up to these microvias. That might be an easy way to do trace repair on this flex. Now, I don't think this picture shows us the back side of the flex, so I'm not sure what's on that. That's what we're going to have to find out, and then we'll find a way to kind of add that to this drawing. So this is one thing here. Let's go back. Let's see, can we go back? All right, and then let's look at Ben Duffy's picture. So Ben has also done some good work here. Let's see if we can click that big. All right, so this is Ben of Geelong Microsoldering in Australia. And so Ben has done some more work actually mapping the pads under the Turtle IC. And you can read here and see what lines those all go to and some of Ben's thoughts on this. And this can also be really helpful for troubleshooting this kind of stuff. All right, so let's go back to microscope view. All right, so I want to just kind of make you aware that you can contribute. Please do contribute. All of us need to work together in order for us as a community. There's millions of phones that are out there. They're going to get signature failures. And as we find, hey, this one cap tends to go bad, or hey, this, I was troubleshooting a problem and I really went down the rabbit hole in a way that most people wouldn't, and I just want to share what I learned so that way we can all kind of get to the point where I was yesterday when a customer customer came in with an iPhone 6, and it had the classic Easter egg fault of a sudden death VCC main short, and I knew exactly where to look while she's standing right here, picked off the bad cap, got her data back, got her phone working again, and she left within 20 or 30 minutes, which was a great result for her. She'd already been to the Apple store, she'd already been to some other mall stores, and she was able to get that quick solution. The first time I ever had to find that cap, it took all day. So I think that by working together, we can all really improve the independent repair experience for all customers. All right, here are the guesses. All right, well, we'll hopefully be able to scroll back. Maybe I should write those down for when we're at the end here. All right, passcode guesses. All right, hope she actually knows which one it is. The good old 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right, so guesses are recorded. All right, let's get back to this repair then. So let's get rid of this window. And we're going to get back to our microscope view of our eBay Flex. So we're going to look at the eBay Flex and see if we can figure out what is going to be torn here. Let me try to make this camera rotate so it's the same way that I am seeing this. All right. There, that's a little bit better. All right, so let's see what's going on here at the Skinny Flex. So on one side of the flex, I can see those two traces, which looks like a match to what we just saw on our helpful diagram. So it looks like there's a whole lot of ground, and then there's these two thin traces that are likely torn. Let's get the multimeter out and see if we can do some confirmation here. All right, so do these all talk to each other? Yes. And I'm going to put a probe here in the grounding clip. So one probe in the grounding clip, and then I'm going to touch here, ground, 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 and then the tiny little flexes, of course, are not ground. All right. So we've got those two on one side, and now let's flip it over and see if we can guess the consequence on the other side. All right, and on the other side of the button, I see one trace. So on this sort of interior side, it looks like a whole bunch of ground, and then one tiny trace there that might possibly be torn in the flex that we need to fix. So let's do the same thing and just confirm that that inside part is ground. All right, so we're going to open this up and get a probe on here. And also try to touch ground. And the other side is ground. Okay, makes sense. So that means this is not a horrible place to tear a flex, because there's only one teeny tiny possible torn trace on the inside, and that looks like it's fairly interior. So fairly interior right there. Our tear on the flex we're trying to fix is kind of here, kind of halfway through, so that trace is probably intact. And then on this side, we are worried about these two traces that are here. Okay, so that's the deal. Now let's go and see what we can do with this flex that's actually torn. So I'm going to pop this button out. All right, so how do we begin? So we're going to try and very carefully excavate just the black coating off of this flex so that we can kind of see a lay of the land there. All right, excuse me, hello. Can you please tell the people behind the green screen to shut their pie holes? Okay, no, I will not. That is incredibly rude, and fuck you. Please feel free to have a conversation. This is a place of business, and we are making a free video for the community, and if you don't like it, suck my dick. Okay, now let's continue on over here. All right, so we are going to, let's tape it down and see what we can do. All right. Who donated? I don't know. When I find out, then I will be sure to give credit. That I don't think popped up. It didn't pop up on my screen. I don't see it in the chat either. So if somebody donated, let me know. We always appreciate donations. Okay. I'm just going to take a sharp scalpel and see if we can make this better instead of making it worse. All right, so we need to scrape kind of up here. And see if we can just get some of this paint off. I'm going to switch to my less sharp X-Acto here and see if that is a little safer. I'm going to switch to my green tweezers. All right, I was about to buy a microscope. If I was about to buy a microscope, what do I need to look after? I don't have the money for the fancy one. That's why I'm asking. Pretty much everybody buys the same microscope, so click over to the video description and see what the current price is from Amscope or microscope.com for the microscope that we recommend. And that's pretty much the one to get. Nobody's buying, $15,000 Leicas and, expensive microscopes, but the one that you need to do the job is about $500, and it is what it is. You really can't do this kind of work without a microscope. Faux shizzle. All right, I'm going to go back to the sharp scalpel. What programs do you use to recover photos on iPhones? Well, we use iTunes to make a full backup, but then after iTunes, we like to use a couple different third-party pieces of software. So we use iExplorer and 3U Tools, both of which are free or cheap. There's a lot of third-party programs out there that all kind of do the same thing, that kind of are a little bit of a front end on what iTunes already does. We're trying to be careful. This is a really, really thin flex, and we just want to scrape off this coating without cutting into it and making it worse. We're starting to see some copper there, which will probably be our ground plane on the side. This feels like being a dentist. I'm scraping plaque. All right, so from here we can see our two thin traces. All right, and it looks like as we really stare at the tear that both of those are going to be severed. All right. So now we need to get past this tear and down here to this sort of below the tear area, and similarly scrape to find the other side of those. Now it's a bit of a challenge to hold the flex to allow us to scrape, but let's try it. Now, if trace repair doesn't seem feasible, then we could go with the alternative idea, which is, can we find those larger microvias that diagram showed us would be at the top of the flex and tie into the resistors? All right, so here are our two traces on the bottom side of the flex. All right, so this is what we're looking at. We got to get two wires from here to there to cross the torn side. All right, I think we might need a little bit more clearance here at the top, so let's try to do that. If you're doing two very, very close side-by-side traces, it's nice to kind of have them not have to be soldered next to each other. So if we get a little bit more clearance here, we can kind of start one higher than the other one. All right, that's a little bit more clearance. All right, voila. Okay, cut the cable off and cut the connector off, replacement, and fuse them together. That sounds a lot more difficult to me, especially because Touch ID is working, and so I don't want to, create a bigger problem by cutting the entire cable. I would like to try that on the next one that has a full tear, but on this one, there's just two very, very thin traces that need to be fixed. So I'd rather just go for fixing the two traces. All right, let's see if we can fire up the good old micro pencil and tin these spots. All right. Robert Fowler paid $186 for an Amscope SE400Z with 10 and 20X. And he says it works great. All right. 20x would not be enough to do this job. This is more where you need to get all the way up to super close. You know, at least 45, if not 90x. All right. Yes, Paul Daniels from Australia recently bought a Amscope, so he can maybe comment on how much it's shipping. Seems like YouTube chat is going through some issues posting users' comments. I don't know about that. You could go to AliExpress and buy the same scope as Amscope from the same factory as Amscope for half the price. You could certainly give that a try. I think all these microscopes do come from China. All right, now we're going to try, let's get close, and tin these traces.
Well, I mean, there's nothing I can do for you unless we see it. I can't, what are you expecting me to do?
So we need to make some shiny, puffy pillows. The SE400 isn't simulfocal or trinocular. So if you want to add the camera later, you can't. That is true, but it certainly sounds cheaper. This is super thin, so we're just trying to be super gentle. More solder! Anyone else lose video? Hopefully not. There's a great use for the old micro pencil.
Like I said, I can't do anything unless you send it back. So if you send it back and there's a warranty cover, we'll cover it 100%. But I can't do anything for you without seeing it back. Well, how did you send it the first time?
All right, so those look tinned, shiny solder on them. And now we'll try to go down to our bottom one.
The only way we can fix it is if you send it back to us. I can't refund you or do anything for you unless you send it back.
Mark probably would have had this done like instantly.
I can confirm that and guarantee you if we absolutely test everything before it leaves us. So that did not leave here not working. It left here working, which is why I'd like to see it again. We can find out what's going on. But I can't do anything for you over the phone. There's nothing I can do. I will not refund you. There's no way to get a refund unless you send it back. And I can't fix it for you over the phone. So if you'd like to have your customer call me, I will certainly explain it to them. Figure out what to do. But if you send it back and mark the box as warranty, I'll take it in as a warranty. We'll see if there's anything wrong with it, and we can solve it more than for you. We'll test it against the known good parts. And then we can send it and we'll wash that and get it right back to you, usually same day. But I can't do anything for you unless you send it back.
These guys are wanting to blob together. I don't want you guys to blob together. Stop it. Break it up.
Well, you can send them, but we're not going to reassemble it for you. We don't reassemble like that, so if you send them,
All right.
we'll test them for you, but we're still not going to reassemble. If you want us to reassemble, you have to purchase a screen from us. We don't use other people's screens.
That looks like it's a little bit off the angle of the camera.
Well, the
I don't like how close together those two are, so let's see if we can split them apart.
Make sure it's working. We're not gonna charge you for the board level repair, but we'll charge you $99 for the screen. And we'll have it fully redone. Sunday at work.
Alrighty.
It's already discounted, so usually our iPad mini screens are $120.
Okay. All right, now the challenge is to get some wires. So let's try to get the wires on, maybe at the bottom first. So we're going to use some very super thin insulated 44 gauge wire. And we'll see. Phone conversation in the background sounds like a fun customer. Yeah, it's really funny. It's kind of like, especially with, it sounds like a mini digitizer connector. That would be like, what I would explain is, you know, if you do a screen replacement and you've got a cracked screen, and then the customer calls you and says, the phone's cracked again, I want a refund. Okay, bring it in. And no, I just want a refund. I don't want to bring it in. Well, I can't refund you when you're claiming that you have a cracked screen. Especially when the only thing I know about you for iPad mini digitizer connector is that you broke the iPad mini digitizer connector. Nobody does that anymore.
Okay, check with the customer. Like I said, you can certainly give me my number anytime.
Oh, this is super tiny. That's going to be hard to get on there, but we're going to try.
Okay, yeah, just.
All right, we're going to try.
Go to send it back and just send it in, reference your original ticket number on a piece of paper and then send it in. Make sure we have the passcode for test. As fast as you can do it. Depends on if you want a screen or not. Okay, yep, so.
All right, I think I'm going to tin this wire first.
Because we need to make sure that the screen is set well, so it's to press. So I would say about 3 business days for turnaround time. Yeah. We have a screen, but we have to make sure that we're not gonna just slap a screen on it and shove it in the mailbox and dead of winter.
We're not going to just slap the screen on it, shove it in the mailbox. Sunday is the best with customer service, that's for sure. All right, let's get this where he goes.
Okay, you've already got the new screen on. Okay, so I'll say 2 days. We'll do it as fast as we can. I want this to come in and out, and I'm just not gonna make you promises.
All right, that seems okay, although,
And you're also satisfied about sending it a week before Christmas.
all right, let's see. Okay. Let's see, what is Amanda Felsky? You can try all zeros too. Amanda Felsky is still worried about the passcode on this device. YouTube thinks that's a hoot, Sunday.
What?
Your whole little conversation.
Why can they hear me up there?
Because because it's quiet and you're
You need to make
hilarious.
I'm not hilarious. What are you talking about?
What did they want? What was it?
It was a mini touch digitizer connector that Gene fixed and he broke again, and then he's telling me that he wants us to just refund him. And I said no, and then he wants us to put on a new screen for him when he sends it back, because he obviously can't do it without breaking the connector again. And then he wants me to discount that more, because he's a shop.
Oh, he's a shop.
I was like, I'm a shop.
Maybe you shouldn't be a shop.
Maybe. And
Alright,
then he wasn't happy with my 2-day turnaround time. He said I needed it quicker. And I just take very calm, cleansing breaths and keep my calm.
I love your customer service theory that you're gonna make everybody, oh god damn it, feel like you are their very best friend.
It's really hard to yell at the, sweet, nice girl on the other side of the phone.
Sweet, nice Sunday. Oh, Oh, have I mentioned today how much I hate trace repair? I hate trace repair. This is what Mark is for. Why is Mark not here? Why is Mark in Florida? That seems like it could potentially be on there. Oh, god damn it. It just totally ripped off in my tweezers when I pulled it away. God damn it. The nightmare of trace repair. All right, let's pick a different spot. That sucks. Boo. All right. I won't solder them from the same point. I'll do farther away from each other. Yeah, I mean, this is just sort of like, this would be in the most robust repair to have the smallest jumper. But if it turns out to be too much of a challenge, which could very well be the case here for me, then we'll have to go up to the microvia, which will be a lot, of, you know, a much bigger surface area than these super tiny thin traces. I mean, this tip itself, I think, is 0.1 millimeter. So this is like a micrometer or so, on the order of micrometer. All right, let's try to tin that wire. All right, let's get it on up here. Let's get a better hold on it. The thing that's making this difficult is that it's not flat. You know, it's you're trying to solder at this strange kind of angle here. And that is a challenge. Get on there, you asshole. I would like it to be a little bit further down than that. That seems like it is too close to the other one. All right, let's move it down. All right, how many traces do you have to make? Just 2. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it at all. But 2 seems like we can do it. I think I should make Mark watch this painful video of Jessa having to do trace repair as punishment for going out with the students and acting like he's in his 20s when he's in his 30s and could not handle it.
He acted like he was in his 40s.
Yeah, when you're in your 30s and you go out and act like you're in your 20s, then you feel like you're in your 60s the next day. That's what happened to Mark. All right, I'm going to make sure that's not ground before I try the other side of it. All right, let's see. I thought he was in his 40s. Mark? Nope. How old is Mark? Is Mark 35? I think he's 35. He's a spring chicken. All right, good. Seems like it's on the trace and not on the ground. All right. I almost wonder if it would be easier on this to flip this whole button and try to kind of get it flat on the other side. I'm going to try to tin the wire first. There's that asshole other wire stuck on my flux syringe. All right, now let's try to get it. This is what I remember the first ever trace repair I did on a 5S, and it was absolutely maddening. That might have that one.
What is a 5S? Is it Brian?
Yeah. Yes, I just put this one up
All right, let me look at this. No, I'm not sure. Let's check to see if that side is on ground or not. Call him back and invite him to the stream. He will be your customer service department. Mark is probably not allowed to do customer service. He would do better than me. I'm definitely
He's
not.
very good on the phone when he calls customers.
He is pretty good.
Good man. And we can wake him up.
When we can wake him up. All right, great. So that seems to be not on ground. All right, so next question is it actually connected? Which I think I'm going to try to do the other one and then find that out. Because the chance that this whole thing is just going to rip off when I go to do the other one is pretty good. All right. Do you see a future in iPhone repair, especially component level repair? Yeah, absolutely. Every phone has some set of signature failures. And until an iPhone 7 is certainly modern enough to be worth repairing. There's no reason why the iPhone 6 isn't worth repairing. Being able for customers to be able to pass their device on to their kids without having to constantly keep an entire family of 4 or 6 or however many people, without having to constantly keep everybody having the latest and greatest phone. I think it absolutely makes sense to continue repairing phones. Probably now more so than ever, because the iPhone, when the iPhone 4S was as old as the iPhone 6 is now, it was largely outdated. By the time if you had an iPhone 4S when what is that? Right now, iPhone 6, 6S, 7, 8, and 10, there's it's four iPhones from the front. The iPhone 4S, we had the 5, and then the 5S, and then the 6, and then the 7. You certainly wouldn't want to repair and fix your 4S and keep using your 4S when the iPhone 6 was an option, because it was definitely a faster phone that would be more likely to give you a better experience. But now, the 6, it still works fine. My personal phone is still a 6 up until a week ago. So the classic Jessa's iPhone 6 I still really like it, but I kind of had to retire it. I kind of had to buy an iPhone 10, which I really don't like, but I got kind of stuck using it.
Jean can't charge hers because her dog ate her charge cord.
Jean can't charge her phone? No. Because her dog ate her charge cord. She ate the charger or the port?
She ate my case.
She ate your case?
Yeah.
Do you not feed her?
That's why the lampshade.
Yeah, she did eat. I saw that. Your dog ate a lamp. Is she like a decorator? Like she doesn't like what you're doing with the place? Yeah, she has pica. What's in that dog food? Did you go to dog obedience class and say, how do I keep my dog from eating the lampshades at home?
That was because the mailman came.
Oh,
You know, that,
yeah. So that's a thing, huh? Are you getting her a fire hydrant for Christmas then? Like to stick with the girl dogs don't pee on fire hydrants, I guess? I never really thought about that. What do girl dogs like to pee on?
Everything else.
everything, anything that's near me, that dog pisses on.
Anybody who touches her, she will pee on.
People. That is true. Customers, I remember that.
She still does that.
She still pees on customers?
Well, she hasn't been.
She's not allowed here
She's
anymore.
not allowed here anymore. She's crazy.
She was banned.
He drew blood.
Whoa, she.
Not true, but-
What?
Pretty sure she can draw blood.
Alright, let's get this in a likely spot here for trace repair.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is going to be a super boring stream. And I have a feeling that I just ripped that other trace. Because it felt it move. Yeah, I did. I ripped it. Ding ding. Alright, on this one, let me just see if I can put that one back. And then maybe move on the second one on what to do when you're struggling with trace repair. And it seems kind of pointless. All right, so now we got to get that one back on because once again, I touched it with my tweezers. And it stuck to my tweezers, so that sucks. All right, so let's grab this and see if we can get it long enough to make a spot.
Such a calm sense of happiness.
Yeah, wait till Christy sees how happy you are.
Christy,
A calm sense of happiness. Did you specifically like rearrange when you knew Christy wouldn't be here?
yes.
So you were like, Christy, what's your schedule? Oh.
She's not here on Tuesdays, so.
Okay, so Tuesday is now like renovate day. Gotcha.
Renovation day.
Renovation day. Trace repair is maddening. Mark will get a kick out of watching this stream. He's got his favorite trace repair wire tweezers like all ready to go at all times.
Christine, we'll see how she likes it.
Uh-oh, Christine's coming? Did you like throw away her magic journal or something?
Hi, welcome, Dr. Rita. Oh my gosh, you are too good. What do you think?
Well, she likes it. Yay.
Much more welcoming, isn't it? Yeah. The back of the couch needs a little love.
All right, let's check for ground on that one, and then let's do a different strategy because it's just getting too boring.
It's still a little much here, but it doesn't feel more like you're coming into a shop than
Okay. That one is back on again. All right. Let's see. Do you see a future in iPhone repair? Shoes. My dog loves pissing on people's shoes. You can help spread his scent around. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's an iPhone X reball stencil. I just bought that the other day, although I don't expect to fix an iPhone 10 for a long time. But I had to buy an iPhone 10 so that when I got the call from ABC going, from Good Morning America, do you want to come down here and open up some iPhone 10s and tell us like what's up with them? Sure. And then they're like, do you have a lot of experience opening iPhone 10s? No, but how hard could it be? So before going down there to kind of like be the expert on opening iPhone 10, I thought I better take a look. So I had to buy one and opened it up and figured out where everything was, and then it was fine. It is kind of hard to open up. You have to use heat in order to get open the iPhone 10. All right, we're gonna look back at, let's look back and see if we can actually use our info. So we're gonna go back to the forum and let's look at this. All right, so this is showing us, so now that we've kind of dissected our trace a little bit, click away from that. Let's see how close we can get. All right, so now we know from having dissected this trace that this thin trace is on the back side of the flex and these two are on the front side of the flex. So we're seeing both of them depicted here, even though the skinny one there by itself is on the back side and the two that we're working on are here on the front side. So let's see, there should be two microvias that are close to the top, I guess, where it comes back and connects to the top plate of the button. So there's two microvias that we could find, and then they come down and they connect. Let's see, the outside, the top microvia is the outside trace, and it comes along and it connects to the top component here by turtle IC. All right, let's try that strategy because this trace repair, it's so close, and I probably, like a lot of folks, am I don't do trace repair. I don't do trace repair. So this one is kind of just done under duress because Mark's not here. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go back and try a different plan, mostly because this is just getting too boring. All right, so, are we going to be able to get to those microvias? Because they're going to be under here. And that means I would have to heat up and desolder this. And then they would go to these components here. All right, so why don't we start with, let's start with seeing if we can get this epoxy off so that we can actually have some ability to tap into those two resistors. All right, so looking at our map says these set of two resistors, we need to get a place to solder on the side that's closest to the thin flex. So let's go with that. Let's see if we can do that. All right, so let's go to low heat and try to pick off that epoxy a little bit. All right, let's see. I took a comment about the guy Bo Dorsey, who overlaid his dots on this picture. Yeah, he posted a high res version. That's the version that I took. And I think that the one that we're looking at on the forum is the thumbnail of that. All right, let's see if we can get into this without bothering anything. All right, so my first question is, hey, did my one trace actually work or not? Oh, it came off. Fantastic. Kind of want to put that back on. I want to know if my one trace, I want to do one trace at least. All right, let's stick this back on here. That went to sleep. Wake up. All right, so here's the question. Do we actually get a beep from, let's do my trace to ground. Not on ground. Do we get a beep to either one of these guys? I think it's supposed to beep to the bottom one. That still has some epoxy on it. Hard to get probes on it, but let's try. I think I got a beep. Yay. All right, that's a beep. Great. So one trace is actually on there. All right, for the other one, let's try and go from the resistor to the trace up here. I think that'll be my first choice rather than trying to desolder and get into the end of the flex. Let's look back at the diagram here, and it looks like I would have to get all the way in. Maybe not. It seems like that's kind of right at this turn, this sort of like elbow. So maybe I could get to that microvia. All right, let's check. Love this information. This is great. Yeah, so there we go. Right at the elbow then. According to my calculations, it's going to be far easier for me to get to a microvia, so I don't have to solder on a trace. I can solder on a dot. Dot beats that. All right, so let's see. Let's look right back at that drawing one more time and see exactly where that is, because that looks like an option. Okay, so right at the, almost like the middle here, right there, I should, in theory, get to a microvia. Let's see if we can find it. Let's go on a hunt for that. Okay. All right. Apple began shipping to authorized service centers a device called the Horizon Machine to restore Touch ID. Yes, they did, which is fantastic. How many phones would you have been able to fix instead of a trace repair? Is it worth it? Me? Well, I don't do this in general. In fact, this phone, if she said, in the note, I am sure that it does not have a tear in the trace, which is the only reason that we took this job. And then once it got here, when I saw that it had this tear, I thought, hey, this would be good for kind of a stream, because folks in the community have recently been doing information, like these diagrams. So I thought that would kind of like be a nice little story on how great it is to sort of share information. So that was kind of the reason why I decided to do this stream at all. But this is definitely not worth it. I mean, that we could go right now. We are 10 minutes away from an Apple store and just go get a new screen on this sucker. And that would cost, for iPhone 7, isn't it like 129 bucks? That's like far and away the thing to do rather than trace repair for this. But, if you've got a dead iPhone 6 because you have torn traces and it has pictures trapped on it, then definitely trace repair is worth it kind of in that situation. Are those my guys? Are they? Is that my microvias? Let's see. Let's ferret that out a little bit more. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, this is a functional part of the phone. It gets pressed on. So, things like trace repair is really not a great idea for things like a home button. Beginning to look a lot like vias everywhere you turn. Or not. Now it just looks like ground plane. God damn it. Scraping while holding the phone flex in the air is a challenge. We can do it. All right, so we see our two guys and no vias yet. Come on, Vias, where are you at? Well, they're not in the corner, which means if I do find them, I'm going to have to edit that document. All right, let's see if I miss them. Let's look back at our map. All right, map says that the two traces don't actually go around the corner, that the vias are right there. We have found that that is really not true. Okay, so these two traces absolutely go around the corner of this whole flex. So let's keep going. All right, folks, we've been had. There ain't no kind of vias up there. All right, so our two traces, let's check to make sure that these are the same ones. And let's make sure that we actually get a beep down to the resistor, at least through our one theoretically successful Great, that's touching ground. All right, let me make that a little bit more of a place that we can get a probe for a reading. All right. Monopoly only. All right. Hey Jessa, how are we all today? We are doing not that great because I swore I would leave at 3 o'clock and it's 3:15 and I really don't want to abandon this repair. And I'm trapped in a repair I have no business ever starting. So not great. How are you doing? Right, so that down there, we've got a resistor that we should be able to get a line on. All right, and holding a probe there. If our one trace is good, we should get a beep on that trace and not on ground. And we're getting a beep on ground. Boo. All right, so that tells us that the one trace we did is touching ground. So let's take it off. Oh geez, that all got hooked up. Sometimes you need to leave. Aren't you scraping the other side? The other side, we did scrape on our eBay button. So this is the eBay button. And on the eBay button, we found that we have two traces here. And on the other side, there seems like there's only one. Maybe we should look into that. Maybe it's just the other side is just one trace and a whole bunch of ground. Unless the thing that we're looking at in the picture is two traces that we can't see from here. So we've got the one trace there, and then I guess there's a possibility that there's two traces here in the side. No, that's all just ground. Yeah, that's just ground. It's just scraping through to showing us the two traces that are on this side. Yep. It does mean that our vias, though, could be on this side of the flex right here. Let's actually look for them on this donor flex. Let's look for those vias. We can be more aggressive on the donor board flex. You could also make an argument that this eBay flex is potentially different than the native flex. Let's put some heat on that. Let's find out.
I'm sorry, 7 or 7 plus? 7 plus, okay, so our charge on that is 140. Yes, correct. Sure. And what were you setting it in for, no power? Okay, so I'll take $20 off this for you too, for doing the order there. Sure. Do you want me to go ahead and update your estimate? So you're all set to send it in? Sure. Can you spell the last name for me?
No vias to be found.
Right.
No vias to be found.
Okay, for the iPhone 6, the touch problems?
This is a great example of
So the screen's not gonna fix that.
community works together to troll each other.
Yeah, no, so with the 6 and 6 plus, there's a known issue with the touch IC.
All right, let's check on the other
It's a
side.
horrible issue. So I don't want you to pay for a screen to find out that you still have the same issue.
Show me the vias.
Yeah, that's a form level issue.
That looks like vias, maybe.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going ahead and add that on here, and then
Nope, just another kind of through-hole ground part.
and then I'll email this over to you, and you can just follow the instructions in the request to send it in. Sure. It's hard to say. It's really due to not defect, but design flaw at home. The phone's just too big and too heavy, and that chip is slowly coming piece off into it. So eventually, you'll start to see some green on the top of the screen. Yeah, so you're on the way out. We can fix it. We offer that repair for $150, but if this phone is being replaced, it doesn't seem like it.
All right, so what have we learned here? I can see our two lines come all the way in here
Sure.
to this home button spot. But now I'm not like really confident anymore that they actually, that our drawing is correct and that they go to those resistors. Because the drawing says that we would find microvias and we're not. There are two lines going right in there. All right, so then we may be back to trace repair is our only option.
Disregard it. I only had a black in stock. So
Okay, I do want to know while we're here, just kind of thinking out loud, is do these two resistors go to ground? All right, so let's heat that up and find out. All right. This would be a 10 cartons of San Miguel fixed in my shop. 10 cartons. Sorry if I was wrong. It's just the flat does flip and the diagram is from the side of the resistors. Well, I think the diagram is showing us kind of both sides of the flex because one side of the flex is all ground with one trace. And the other side of the flex is all ground with two traces. The diagram shows us 3 traces. So my guess is that the diagram is kind of putting together both sides of the flex. But on the other hand, the diagram clearly shows, so let's look at the diagram again. See how there's one trace, and then, I don't know if you can see my cursor, and then on the left, 2 traces. So we have a tear on what's clearly all ground, and then 2 traces. And our trace on the other side of the flex is intact, as far as we can tell. So what we're missing here is a connection within the flex to, let's see, does this like cutout thing mean anything? Let's slide over here. We are missing, I don't really know what this sort of cutout with those 2 vias mean. Let's look at that. It's the other side. Yeah, I think that the way this is depicted is it's just showing us kind of both sides of what's going on in this flex in one spot. All right, so we're gonna go with the 2, since there's on one side there's just 2 traces and it's on this sort of outside of the flex. That's a match that it goes from these 2 resistors to some microvia, and then, you know, who knows? Those microvias, they don't seem to exist as far as I can tell. It's possible that they don't exist in my hands because I'm using an eBay Flex and that there's something different about this eBay button. It's not a native button. So we're not sure about that. But let's find out if at least the multimeter says on our tester, do we actually get a beep to ground? No. Oh, we do. We get a, this goes there. And not there. Let's look at that. That is something being off then. All right, is there any reason? All right, let's do a test. Let's see if we can map what this third trace is according to the diagram. Let's see. Diagram says the third trace goes from the top of this little standalone resistor. Okay, so let's find out if that is true. So diagram says we should get a beep from the top of this resistor to the third trace here. And we don't. Oh yeah, we do. Let's clean the hair off of the multimeter. All right, so from here, God damn it. All right, diagram is totally wrong. All right, never mind. Diagram, or it's too difficult to get a probe just on that. I'm trying to touch just the trace and not ground. All right, diagram is right. All right, let's really drill down on this. All right, we're trying to get a probe just on the trace here and not have it also touch ground.
We're here if you change your mind. Thanks, bye-bye.
That is mighty hard to do. I'm trying to touch just that trace to map just the trace without simultaneously touching ground anywhere. And see, what does it beep to? Every time I get a beep, the probe has slipped and it's touching ground. All right, I'm going to go with we can't get any information over here. All right. Sup, peeps? All right. Try to use for cleaning medical needle. Scalpel. What you think I'm using, bro? Scalpel. All right. So I think my conclusion is that I am not convinced right now that this trace actually matches the community provided map that we have, which is why this stuff is so important to kind of edit and collect information. I mean, it's really hard to do this stuff, to map out those very, very fine traces. The base diagram here comes from Jilan, who tends to be pretty good, and he tends to have access to stuff, since he's in China, that none of the rest of us can find. So, you know, this is telling us that we should have we should be able to get a beep, and we should have a connection from these two resistors to our two lines. The top resistor should connect to our thin line, and the bottom resistor should connect to our second line. And we didn't see those microvias anywhere when we tore apart this flex, so it's possible that this is an error. I'm not sure. We'll have to just keep kind of digging around on it. But I'm getting close to the end of the amount of time that I want to put into this, because it's 3:30 and I promised the kids for a snow day that I would definitely leave here at 3 o'clock, and I need to pack up a bunch of stuff. So I am going to kind of put a timer on this job here. All right, let's clean this with some alcohol so we can kind of take stock and see if, let's just see if we can just kind of get that other trace repair trace on there. And I don't think that we can really rely on our document. It's just too big of a mismatch. All right, let's clean this off and kind of see what we have so far. All right, so we went on a hunt for these microvias, and what we're finding on ours, let's look at it. What we're finding on ours is that we didn't see any microvias around, and what we see instead is kind of a continuation of these two wires that seem to continue along this entire elbow of the flex. All right, and now what we have so far, let's really look at our only jumper that we've gotten done, and let's look. All right, so that jumper seems to be okay. I think it's attached well, and I think it's attached to only, let's look at it really close, see what you guys think. I think that jumper is attached, and I think that jumper is only attached to the trace that it's supposed to be attached to. So now we'll try and look at the downside here, which is a little bit harder to access. Okay, and that's not attached to anything anymore. All right, I'm going to take this off so that we can really get a better view, figure out how to work with it a little bit better. They're so tiny, they don't really like things like getting touched with tweezers, alcohol, and brushing. All right, let's flip this over and take a look. At this corner spot. So here we can see our break. All right, here's the break. And that break is definitely cutting through both of these two guys. Let's kind of follow them a little bit more. This area seems a little bit sort of like pressed on. This is the way a lot of times kind of trace repair goes, that a trace can kind of become flattened, and that makes it really difficult to work with. Let's follow this back a little bit and see if we get a little bit more to work with. As if I can't get this done, then this will be another exciting day of complete and utter fail, no fix at iPad Rehab. I spent the morning kind of drilling out an iPhone 7 SD RAM short, and I don't have another RAM to replace it with, so that was a giant waste of time. Really, it really is at times depressing, because you know the I think the industry kind of goes through these periods of time where everyone has to figure out what are kind of the new signature faults. This is now when we are going to start seeing a lot of 7s. We haven't seen 7s before. 7s were under warranty until recently. So this is kind of like the work phase of the industry where we have to, together, work out, do a lot of this kind of stupid stuff until you figure out what are the signature faults. And then once we know them, then we'll come up with kind of the fastest and best solutions. And then we'll kind of get back to a homeostasis where, all right, we know what's wrong, we can repair it, or we know what's wrong, it's not worth it to repair it, etc. So we have been just in this sort of season of constantly having to do research jobs that don't get fixed, which is tough. It's very tough when you don't get paid if you don't fix things. So it's really tough. We've had a lot of just utter complete blowout days with nothing getting fixed like today, which is depressing because the kids are home today. It's Christmas time and it's a beautiful snow day, and it just seems kind of annoying to go spend a whole day at work and bill nothing. That is a frustration. If you're in that kind of time, you should just know that is sort of a status quo part of life for everybody doing repair. And it also kind of points to why you hear the kind of general annoyance that you can kind of get a sense of from people that are, please bro, what's solution? When the solution is, dedicate your life to using your brain to figure out problems and sharing information. All right, let's see if we can get a little bit more into here. What I'm doing now is I'm just kind of looking for a way to make this repair feasible, because at this point it's becoming too sort of tedious to put more time into it. All right, let's see what this whole piece is. That looks like it's just a sticker. Man, that is some thin stuff. I'm going to see if I can kind of peel that sticker a little bit with the ye old professional fingernails. All right, let's see. It is snowing here in northern New York. It is snowing in western New York as well. All right. So much wasted time. Exactly. Yes. I think in the last 24 hours, I have been in the shop like for a long day yesterday, and then now a kind of a shorter day today. But today I've absolutely fixed nothing, and I've spent a significant amount of time under the microscope. And yesterday, it started off with a great repair to help a local person with her signature fault on an iPhone 6 that I can specifically remember the first time I ever saw, and it being just like this, where it took me hours and hours and hours to find that one random cap that looked totally beautiful, and I never even, at the time, didn't even realize that was really a possibility. A beautiful looking cap with no evidence of any water or anything could just suddenly become a wire. But now we know that happens all the time. And I found that one, and then also I found another sort of single cap failure on an iPhone 7 data recovery. I had another successful data recovery yesterday on a guy that had a 5S or a 6, I think. And then I spent an enormous amount of time on one that was a software defect, where I believe ultimately that the NAND was unable to, it's like it lost its encryption key. So it was, you know, would not boot past, it would not allow you to enter the passcode. You could enter the passcode and then it would just reboot. So I reballed NAND, changed TriStar, and kind of looked for faults for a long time on that. And then I looked around the community to say what kind of other experience have anyone else had with the similar symptoms. And it seems like other folks had also walked in those same footsteps, and it wasn't any of those, it wasn't solved by NAND reball or anything that you could do and still have a path to data. So what we're doing now is just looking for a bigger place to see what happens to these two tiny traces as they come around the corner here. And it looks like they turned super tiny. All right, let's clean that off and show you guys what we're seeing here. All right. Okay, we're following these two torn traces. That are now torn even more. And we're following them, hoping that they come to a microvia that would be easier to solder on. And let's see here, that might be what's going on here. We gotta go somewhere eventually. Getting hard to scrape on this very rounded angle. And it looks like we might be finding a microvia after all. I think we did find a microvia. A microvia is a little circle. Instead of a trace being a thin wire, then it goes like through the board, or in this case through the flex from one side crossing over. So it's like an elevator shaft. And the elevator shaft is larger than the thin little wire. So soldering onto the circle that is the elevator shaft, the microvia, is like a lot easier than trying to actually like make a jumper to a wire.
Thank you.
That's no problem. I think that for difficult jobs like this, that the customer should be forced to watch the live stream. Like Amanda Felsky needs to be saying, yep, still watching. Ooh, that looks tough. And stuff like that. So that, you know, when this ultimately is like, you know, yeah, you should just go to Apple. Are you sure you can't fix it? All right, so we found our way to one microvia. That is great news. And this one is for the interior trace. Can you guys all see that? Let's look real close. Let's look really close. All right, see that? That is for the inside trace. Goes to that microvia. So we will be able to easily solder onto that and run a wire to anywhere that we want it to go. All right. Manifelsky says she's still watching. Great.
I'm sorry, we want it.
Fantastic.
Mark was working on this the other day, and we needed to source a known good board, so to pull some shit up. So yeah, but he was doing
All right, so we're still on a hunt. A lot of times when there's two paired traces, the microvias will be close together. And it looks like this is going to be a second one. Right here. So microvia, Sunday asked, what is a microvia? So a microvia is this larger round looking spot. So we've been following the thin little trace wire. Thin piece of copper. I mean, look how tiny this is. Look at my giant fingerprint ridges are huge compared to how tiny this stuff is.
I think right now he was just waiting for it to work, and then
Okay, and there's our second microvia. Okay, so the outside trace, let's get a really close view because this is really kind of like the point of this video. And this is what I would add to the community information. We have two microvias that you can find if you ever have a tear at this section of the trace. So let's review what would need to happen. I would look for these directly the next time I did this repair. So I want you to see them here. 1, 2. Let me try to hold that straight. Oh, that is hard. My hand is wanting to stop being in a fist. 1, 2. 2 microvias. All right, let's zoom back out and see exactly where those are located. So those 2 microvias are located under this sticker. So this is what your home button looks like. So peel that sticker a little bit near the bracket, and those will be your 2 microvias that themselves have to wrap around and go up this flex, and then somewhere they're going to have a spot of connection. So they're going to connect at some point to something here in the button, and it might make sense to just kind of like find whatever that connection point is. But for now, let's just try and solder onto those microvias and see if we can find 2 sort of different places to put a trace and see if we can kind of get that tried out for now, because this is getting fatiguing for sure. All right. Community info.
1 minute. 1 minute till 4 o'clock.
3:49. What are you talking about?
No, I'm sorry. We got 11 minutes.
I know. I really am going to be in serious trouble. All right.
Tell the community they need to call it at 4 o'clock.
Yes. Sunday says, hey, community, Jess is not allowed to work on this after 4 o'clock. Okay. Jessica gets to go home and the kids say, did you fix a lot of stuff? Nope, I didn't fix a goddamn thing.
But you can tell them that the shop looks freaking great.
But the shop looks freaking great.
And that's really what's important.
And that is what is really important. I will certainly tell them that. Okay. So now let's see if it's easier to solder into these microvias. Let's get some flux. And let's wake up the old micro pencil. All right, you can try to clean the solder resist above one of the trays so it will protect the nearby area just above one of the trays. What are you talking about? Bring out the lasers. Benjamin says go home. I have no clue if the pad is necessary. It leads to another chip its pad. What are you talking about? What pad? All right, I don't see that. Okay. I want to remind you guys that all of this can be avoided with a quick trip to the Apple Store and $129. So
Worth it.
don't ever think, that you have to do trace repair. It's almost never a good idea. And had we known this was a trace repair job on a Flex, we would have said hell no right out of the gate.
I'm closing up front.
Okay. All right, trying to get some fat pads here. Puffy pillows on the microvia. Was there somebody coming that I needed to pay attention
I had
to?
someone come in earlier for an iPad with. That's
Okay.
it.
Here, let's clean up this hoo-ha. All right, so we just want to make sure we get those torn traces separated out of there. Can't touch ground. Stop it. Okay, that's fine. So the part that's left doesn't go anywhere. All right, let's get a wire in there. Let's make that really robust. Soldering on the vias just feels so much more robust. All right, this has to be pretty long. I'm going to cut it there and make another one. Let's find our spot. And make it so you guys can see. All right. iPhone 10 will have worse repairs needed. Apparently the front camera system is not replaceable though. Yeah, but it's no different than like the home button being not replaceable. And who knows, maybe by the time we all start seeing iPhone 10s, maybe we'll all have these Horizon machines and can reprogram shit, or at least have somebody close by that can. I think right here, like what's in the best interest of the customer, just go to the Apple Store and get a reprogrammed phone. And if a shop has let's say the shop doesn't ever have the ability to actually program fingerprint sensors, fine. But if the shop has a reasonable ability to themselves take care of a mistake by going to the Apple Store and just getting swapping the screen, then fine. So I think this idea of having Apple authorized local Apple authorized places having the ability to do stuff like a home button swap is fantastic. And you just kind of go down the street every now and then. And we do enough of that already, you know, like local customers that will do, you know, like a shop that has a botched mini digitizer connector, for example. They just take it as like all right, got to go make a visit over here to us. And then I did the same thing where I did a stupid S6 charge port and damaged the screen like an idiot. And had to go to them. Say, help me out, bro. Family Community Repairs. All right, let me see if I'm happy with that with some alcohol. There's a lot of adhesive in this area, so it's hard to tell. That one I think I'd like to be in there a little bit better. I'll probably stick to my tweezer, but I love that angle. I'm gonna try it. All right, it's stuck. Let's get a little bit of flux. Try to make a joint there. And pick it up. I'm gonna have to tape that down. No way to avoid it. Gonna have to take it down. Gotta get that Coke product placement. All right, that is held down now over there, so that I can use my tweezers. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm soldering a little bit blind because I can't see under that. All right, I'm going to wiggle off the end on that, lifting it up so I can see. That one was touching the ground. Can't have that. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Okay, so this one is the one on towards the center, and this one is the one towards the edge. Okay, let's see if we can make them go to any kind of destination. Alright, so this one is the one on the center, and that one is the one on the edge. Take this back down. Alright, so this is the one that goes to a center location. Alright, so let's pick a spot here where there is a little bit of that mask. And I don't think we have any other tears. Let's make it so you can see. Alright, let's try to tin this wire. We'll try to tin it right here. That is proving too difficult. Let's try to tin it right here then. Right, I actually really like that one for the other spot because I have tin on just the other wire. So let's pull that other wire over. Let's get this one cut out of the way. We're never going to need it to be longer than that. Now let's pull over this wire. And let's make sure it has plenty of play for this button. I'm going to switch to the mini hot tweezers. It just doesn't seem to be very hot. Oh, that's because they went to sleep. Alright. That seems like a strong connection. Maybe. This tail really needs to come off. Okay, now this one needs to go to the inside. The inside one. One more, one done, finally, after all this time. And one more. Please, bro, go play with your kids and screw this repair. Thanks for your confidence and support. But that is not my way. All right. In hindsight, this is really 10,000 times easier using the mini hot tweezers than my micro pencil. I think my micro pencil tip is probably just really oxidized. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is, at least in theory, 2 micro jumpers. That, at least in theory, should go from A to B. All right, I'm gonna test and just sort of know whether or not that is gonna work. So rather than trying to use the multimeter to try and make, you know, the multimeter probes are enormous. The thin, teeny tiny boy multimeter probes are huge when you look under there, and I'm not going to try to make test connections with that. I am going to see whether or not this works in the device. And then if it doesn't, I will probably put it aside or give up. And if it does, then I'm still going to put it aside because I got to get out of here. And then I would have to come back to it sometime in the future to make it be robust. Alright, home button is connected, and in theory we have our traces there. Let's test. What do you think's gonna happen? Pleasures of flex trace repair. Not sure I would say pleasures. I'd say more like the chore. The stupid idea, the things you should decline. I am excited though to try the technique of just cutting it, clean cut across the whole thing, and kind of transferring a flex from one to another. I would try that one time, really just for the fun, just for fun. All right, let's see. All right, let's see if there's any improvement in this. Let's take off the microscope view. So, how about that Bitcoin? How about the cryptocurrency? And this stuff is off the hook. I was really struggling with what to get the kids for Christmas, and I think it would be really fun to give them, like, to open a account so that they could, you know, buy this stuff. All right, doesn't look good because I still see this home button thing populating. Let's see. I don't see home button functioning from here. Fantastic. And we're kind of in the same state that we were, which is that, you know, this button, let me get the alcohol clean on this button for a second. There's a flux on the button. So home button, you know, is this sort of kind of like kind of working, kind of not. It should, as far as I know on a 7, I think that pressing the home button should wake it up. Doesn't it? Am I wrong about that? All right, let's try these passcodes that she sent. Let's try. Passcode 1 is wrong. Passcode 2 is wrong. Passcode 3 is wrong. All right, passcode 4 it was. All right, so now we can kind of really test home button function. Nope, so we do not have home button function. Let's test fingerprint sensor. Let's see. Add a fingerprint. All right, so we still have fingerprint is working. It's fingerprint sensor is letting me place a fingerprint on this device. Adjust your grip. So I'm adding a fingerprint. I will later delete. Maybe iOS 11 doesn't allow you to just open the device like this. All right, so fingerprint sensor is working and home button is sporadic or not working. All right, one thing I would like to do is to just kind of plug this home button into a different screen just to kind of rule that out and take like a look here at our traces. I feel like those traces are pretty good. So let's take a look at them, see if anything is obviously loose. All right, so let's disconnect this. And kind of take a look at our button. Come on out of there. All right, so let's see. Microscope view. Oh, microscope cam. What do we have here? All right, let's look at that very, very closely and see if it seems problematic or good. All right, I'm gonna just kind of nudge it. Are you actually on that? All right, I can see that that is bridging to the other trace, I think. All right, let's tape that down. All right, let's see. See if I can just push it off this second trace. All right, now I think it is off that second trace. And then here, where I just grabbed it, I think I made another break. Well, this is like zoomed into max. This is 90x. So I put my jumper here, and I just, with my giant tweezers, just broke this. See, I made a break right there, which means I'm gonna have to move it up. And I don't know if I even have room to do that, but in order for this to work, that one has to move up. All right, so we've come this far. We at least want to give this a shot with both of these traces working. That seems humongous. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I have to kind of keep it here. I think I got it. All right, let's probe. Oh God, it's so easy to like not be gentle here. Same thing, I want to make sure I'm not on the second trace. So I'm just pushing it off. And I can see a clear border. Okay, let's give that a try. Microscope cam. All right. When Bitcoin drops, it's going to shock the world. I think there's going to be like a giant frenzy on selling Bitcoin one day. I did recently, Bitcoin seems pretty cool. So I added a "we accept Bitcoin" on the website to try it out. So supply store, now accepting Bitcoin. Okay. Really wish I had a known good 7 screen so that I knew for sure, like, oh yeah, home button is tested working, but I don't have that. All right, that seems to come through intact. All right, connected. And test 2. Oh man, when is the village coming in? This is the... You mean the village of Honey Eye Falls that says you need to go home? It's getting dark out. You promised that you would be home at 3 o'clock, and it is 4:20, and you are still on this stupid stream for a ridiculous repair that you never should have taken to begin with. That, even if is successful, no one really has the business of ever doing this repair. I don't know. Just one of those crazy things. Okay. All right, test number 2. All right, test number 2. Let's see what happens. Damn, I was working running a shit ton of PEX water lines, and to think I could have been watching this. Yeah, exactly. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. All right, this thing's still beating up. All right, Bitcoin value is being manipulated by a few big money people. If you have any, dump that shit before they For a second, I thought it was going to work because it took a few seconds for it to show that the little accessibility thing. I'm going to guess that that will automatically go away. All right, so let's test. So we still have no home button function here. And we still can, like, I can feel that nothing, nothing, nothing. And then when I unlock haptic vibrate, I guess it's possible in iOS 11 on the 7 that it doesn't respond to home. All right, let's see. Does home work? Nope. Nope, nope. It thought about it, though. It took a second for it to generate that thing. All right, so home button function is not working. And let's test fingerprint sensor. I forgot which fingerprint I used. Yep, fingerprint sensor is still working. All right, let's look one more time at our traces and see if we can see a problem. Would really like to have a known good screen here, but I don't have one handy. All right, let's see if we can figure out what it doesn't like. All right, let's look back and really examine these now. All right, so trace number 1 on this side looks good. It really does. All right. Oh, you can't see that. Let's get back the microscope cam. Oh, so we are drilling down and looking at, let's make this be how I'm seeing it. All right, so this is the inside trace. That seems okay, seems solid. All right, then here, on the outside trace, seems to have a clean border with that. I'm not 100% sure that there's not another break somewhere further up the line here. All right, before we use the multimeter, let's just check. Okay, so the inside trace needs to go under the sticker here. To the inside microvia. All right, and does it. So let's try to get eyeballs on that. Let's try to hold the sticker out of the way at the same time as holding up this flex. That seems good. And then the outside one also seems pretty good. Get that out of here. Okay, so let's see what we can do with the multimeter. It's possible that that whole business of these two traces was incidental to the common fault of an actual crack under the turtle IC. That is one possibility. All right, let's see what we can do with the multimeter and find out what the problem is. All right, so let's ask It'll be hard to know whether or not we can get a good reading here, but we're gonna try. All right, so let's ask, multimeter, is the inside trace on ground? Is the outside trace on ground? All right, it would be fantastic if I could get, I probably, in retrospect, should have left the wires long. On this side. Gosh, even the act of taking, I don't think I can take that measurement to ask if I have continuity or not. All right, I think the last thing I'm going to try is sticking that into, let's see if I can find a 7 screen. That's a 6. Wow, it does look all nice in the front. All right, let's see. D1 is NC. It's gonna work. I have an idea for you to throw it and buy a new one. All right. What are you talking about, D1? D1 is NC, D2 is ground. What's D1 and D2? You talking about this home button? Or not? All right, we're gonna try a different screen, just to rule out something here. I mean, this to me, I'm really pretty happy with these jumpers. I feel like these jumpers are robust enough, especially the first one. The second one, that one I'm less in love with. The first one I think is totally solid. But I do think this will be a good video to refer anyone to that's like, you know, can't you fix all I did was just a little tear in the home button. Can't you fix that for cheaper than getting a new screen? All right, so I need a front camera assembly, so I'm going to plug the one in from this screen. All right, we'll take away the microscope. All right. Can you help with an iPhone 6? At first it shows something and then it shows something else, and that you can ask that question on the iPad Rehab Forum, where we will walk you exactly through what to do, how to think, how to measure, how to learn. That would be perfectly fine. All right, so now we're going to test on this screen, and we'll know right away if the little accessibility settings comes up or not. I can't post in the forum. If you want to ask a question, you can subscribe, and if you did subscribe and you're having trouble posting, then you can hit send me a message, and I will be happy to make sure that if you are a subscriber that you can absolutely post in the forum. My link deleted. Well, let's see if we can make old Jerry a mod on the channel here. There you go. Now you can make links. All right. It's taking a long time to load, which makes it seem like this screen doesn't have a home button connected at all. Let's see. Maybe I plugged in that front camera wrong. No. Alrighty. Is this repair worth the time? Hell no. Hell no. I mean, how long is this video anyway? This video is, you know, I know that I started it. Oh, it's 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours over something you can go down. I could have driven to the Apple store and paid $129 and probably even not even had an appointment and have been seen and had it fixed and been back here by now in the time that it's taken to try and repair this stupid flex. All right. All right, so there's a problem here with booting. Let's try to give up and reconnect it so that it can figure itself out. Let's see. Let me make sure I've got a front camera connected because iPhone 7s don't like to try to boot without their front camera. And let's make sure I've got my home button connected and screen connected and battery connected and ask it to boot again. All right, let's see. Jessa, no, I'm talking about a TriStar problem. Well, this stream isn't about TriStar. This stream is about iPhone 7 home button. All right, let's wake it up. Litecoin is flying at the moment. It's doubled and a bit in price. For a second. It takes a second for that stupid thing to come up. All right, let's see if we're still in the same boat. So from lock, we don't have home button function. When we do this, the home button does. Oops, when we're at lock, I can feel that haptic vibrate and it will take me, home button will take me to the passcode screen. And then from here, home button is not gonna work. It is very interesting that home button does function in that, and this was how it was in the beginning, that from here, I don't think I can make it be less green screeny. From here, home button, stop it. Home button, click. It takes me to, well, I used my fingerprint sensor. Let's do a different one. Try again. You know, I can do this. And home button will all day long function right there to just go from lock screen to passcode screen. Isn't that wild? But if I do enter the passcode, then no more home button function. Doesn't do anything. All right. 4013 is something Jess and Chris are working on at the moment. No, we're not. Error 4013 means something's not right. That's all it means. Something's wrong. No more information than that. There is no please bro for error 4013. Just means something's wrong. All right, just about ready to give up. Let's take one last look. Now this entire fault here could be turtle IC from out of the gate, and that these lines were not relevant and that we just fixed them because we saw the break. That would be a giant fail, wouldn't it? That would be really funny if this was a turtle IC job all along, which is what we actually took it in for. And then mountains of trace repair later. All right, oops. So the only joint that I don't really like here is this one. So let's do a little edit. Well, the tweezers are getting like more stuff on them the more I try to clean them. All right, let's focus. and make sure that we don't have a break under where we can't see. Seems okay. All right, I like that joint a little bit better than the one we had. Flip it. And peek under here. I'm actually going to tape that back so that we can investigate. So damn sticky. Let's make it so you can see what's going on here at the microvia spot. This is so much easier with hot tweezers than it was before. That is for sure. I'm gonna make sure I'm not grounding my lines, which I think I am. I think I was grounding right there. I was. I think that when I was here originally, all I cared about was the microvia and the fact that the rest of the line is broken. But that one may not have actually been broken all the way up. That one might have been intact, in which case grounding there with that blob could have been a big deal. All right, so that's something. And then here, I'm good with that as long as that little stem isn't going anywhere. Let me just make sure that stem isn't going anywhere. Oh, I see another spot that could be ground. Right there on that line. There we go. All right. Happy with that. I'm actually going to leave that Captain tape on there. Picked up a free piece of solder. All right. And I am pretty happy with all of these. I feel like I've really gone over this. I'm really happy with all 4 of the connections. I am, even without using the multimeter, I feel like I've looked at the whole line. I've got good connection in the via. I don't see any kind of bridging. I don't see any kind of crosstalk between the two. I've got my one going to line 1 and the other one going to line 2. And I feel, on that one, pretty solid on that. So at this point, my thoughts would start to turn, if this, if this continues to kind of be same old, my thoughts would turn to what do those lines do? It was an assumption that we made when we saw a very weird and specific defect on this home button function on this 7 with intact Touch ID, that we saw these sort of like 2 breaks in the cable that, was kind of an assumption to be like, all right, well, that's what it is, an obvious broken trace. But we don't really know exactly what those do. It's still it would be really surprising if they were not involved with home button function, but I would want to confirm that before kind of continuing on. Not that I would, this is already ridiculous. And then I think that at that point, then you would have to kind of start considering turtle IC function. Now that would only be if you really cared about it for some reason. Maybe you're located in some area of the world where it's either you fix it or it's never going to work. But, even still, home button function, when Touch ID works, that's a pretty minor part of the phone. Especially when the accessibility settings work. So I don't know. This one seems like probably the dumbest repair I've ever done on my channel. All right, so we're back to the screen it came with, and we are gonna do one last test and see what happens. All right, yeah, it's 4:43. That is ridiculous. Wow, 2 hours and 42 minutes to not fix a $129 home button. Yay! If you've joined us late, the reason I did this stream was less about doing trace repair on a home button and more about sharing what you can learn if you work together. So this is really, it trolls me every time. It like shows me the lock screen and then it'll show me the accessibility thing like a second later. All right, so it looks like we're in our same boat here, but let's just kind of test this. I'll take this away for a second, then we'll wrap it up and get out of here. All right, so we have, again, home button function from the lock screen only. So lock screen to passcode screen is home button. It vibrates, it recognizes it. And then if we open the phone and swipe and try to do home button, it doesn't work. Yeah, so it does not give me home button function. So oh wait, it did for a second. Let's see if I go to settings and just do settings home button. Surely there's going to be a home button settings in here. I got one click out of it. Did you see that? That was cool. All right, Touch ID and passcode have been working. That's my Touch ID finger. Is this my Touch ID finger? Is that my Touch ID finger? Yep. No home button, no home button. All right, let's see. Where do you set up the home button in the iPhone 7? Let's go to finish setting up your phone. I don't want to do that. Who's going to tell me? I've seen the power button not work on the iOS. Yeah, that's true. I've seen that a lot. And the date and time are wrong. That's probably worth ruling out. Yes, but that's not true with the, I've never seen that be anything but the power button. All right, so why not plug it in and let iTunes figure out its date and time? Maybe it'll do that. Yikes. Sounds and haptics. All right, where's my system haptics? Play haptics. What I want you to do is let me set up my home button. Where is home button set up? Who's telling me that? You should just remove the home button and send it back as an upgraded iPhone 10. I don't think that's going to work. Right? Who can tell me where do you set up the home button? Touch ID and passcodes? Probably not. Hello, did she get it going? No, it's exactly the same as it was 3 hours ago. Which just goes to show that this is a giant waste of time. Here's what I wanted to tell you guys that didn't hang out for 3 hours since the beginning of the stream. The reason why I wanted to do this stream today was less about, hey, let's actually put time into fixing an iPhone 7 home button, because you can just go get a new home button from Apple for 129 bucks. Because I wanted instead to kind of show how working together as a community is really important. So over at iPad Rehab Forum, so if you go to iPadRehab.com and you click to the new forum, I started this new section of it, which is just called It Takes a Village, Community Knowledge-Based Contributions. And I put there some stuff, you know, if I find stuff that's kind of people have put out publicly, like the iPhone 7 stuff people have been working on. I know that I did a stream on this earlier, and on my earlier stream, I know that I sat there and diode moded all of the iPhone 7 home button. How do I make that work? Right. I know I diode moded all of iPhone 7, the home button connector, and mapped out some traces and stuff like that. But that information gets lost because it's in the middle of the Turtle IC video. So even if I wanted to, you know, somebody asked me like, oh, do you have those diode mode measurements? Yeah, they're in the middle of the Turtle IC video. That's lost. That's like buried information. So I wanted to make a place where people that do a repair like this, you know, what did I learn from this repair that's actually useful? I think it would be, hey guys, did you know that the diagram that people generally use doesn't help you if you have what's probably a fairly common sort of half tear on the thin flex. So let me show you what I mean. If you go to iPad Rehab, here's what I started, the iPhone 7 home button map collection of information. And so what I put here are two pictures, then give credit where credit's due if you do post anything here. This original picture here was originally released by Wyman from G-Lon, and he put together this whole little picture map of these traces. And then other people have done kind of the same thing we've been doing today, which is filleting off the top black stuff and looking at the traces underneath. So I thought this picture was great because it tells you some of this kind of important information. And what we were kind of going with at the beginning on this repair was, let's click on that, I think, was this idea that our torn traces up here, we're going to have microvias at the top, and they were going to have these two resistors at the bottom, so it would be pretty easy to just solder a jumper from the resistor to the via, resistor to the via. Then we started to fillet it up, and we did not find those vias in that area. Those two traces continued on, you know, and went on past this thing and appear to go actually into the button itself, which makes sense that they would. let's see if we can kind of get some more detail. There is a higher res version of this. So then the other day, Bo Dorsey did a very similar project as to what I'm doing right now. And Bo Dorsey found himself trying to troubleshoot some kind of trace problem and filleting the entire home button flex. And now here I'm doing it again as well. And I just really like the idea of there being a repository for community contributions when you go down the rabbit hole and you want to like have a place to tell about it, something that you found out that was cool. So, and have those be kind of searchable and a place where you can find them again. So that if you really want to find iPhone 7 home button map, if you go to community contributions on iPad Rehab Forum, then you should be able to search for iPhone 7 or home button and find it without it being sort of buried in the middle of a giant forum or just kind of not annotated in some way. So what Bo did was he tore apart a whole flex, and then he kind of overlaid new information on this picture and stuck his logo on it. So he then is kind of showing us these sort of little colored connections between things. And this is a little bit low res of this image. I think the higher res image is easier to see on the forum itself. And then people were talking about it, and let's see if we can go back. And then I was reminded of some work that Ben Duffy from Geelong Microsoldering in Australia, he did way early on when we were first looking at iPhone 7 home button stuff. So he actually mapped under Turtle where all this stuff goes and the names of all of these lines. In fact, we could probably even see from right here that the lines that we're working on are probably connected on the other side of this resistor. So it's probably these two yellow lines. And let's see, I don't know if I can read it here. It's too low res for me to read it there. Let me see if I click this off, if I can read it where I saved it on my computer. Let me look for that. You know, the idea that like really quickly we could, at least in theory right now, figure out what are the names of these lines. All right, let's say don't download. Where did I put that? Let's see. Capacitance sensor input. Capacitance sensor input. All right, this is the first time. Why did I not look here first? The capacitance sensor input makes a heck of a lot of sense. That capacitance sensor input line should be, I'm looking at this other thing he says, that the blue dot should connect to active shield output, aka external shield plane, aka back of home button, ring around home button. It does not. Perhaps it gets switched on and off by Mesa to prevent Mesa boost feeding 16 volts here, perhaps. All right, and then a trace connects to this interrupt output, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere. Is it a test point? Yeah, so that is, you can download this same image from iPad Rehab Forum and read it in detail so that you too can see what's going on. All right, let's put that back. All right, there we go. So you can read all of this stuff that he said. So I love the idea that folks in the forum, like Ben got a bee in his bonnet about this was months ago, half a year ago, on the mapping out or separating home button from fingerprint sensor on the iPhone 7, and then recently Bo Dorsey was trying to fix some kind of a trace, and he got a bee in his bonnet and really went on what I call, like this repair, hobby repairs, where they don't make business sense. You're not making any money. You're just doing it for the love of repair and the quest for information and wanting to figure things out. So when you do that and you kind of get a big diode mode map, or you kind of see, hey, I didn't know these two things talk to each other, you're thinking about it, or it's something you've had a discussion with friends, and you come up with something that might shed a light onto a signature fault, then share. And the reason, why not just keep all that information to yourself or just the people that you know? And the reason is because of the lady that came in yesterday with her iPhone 6 and her bad VCC main cap right in the corner of the phone. She had been to the Apple store, she had been to the mall stores, and she shows up here and she's distraught over her data and her dead phone. And I look at it, I see it's a VCC main short on an unopened 6. that's a signature fault. I look for that cap, I pick it off without even taking the board out, and her phone comes back alive. And she's thrilled. She's absolutely thrilled. She was able to come in and leave, walk-in customer, to get a VCC main short solved within 20 minutes and have all of her data and walk back out the door. And I was able to, charge her for that repair reflective of the level of effort it took to know to look there. And she totally understood that and thought it was fantastic to be able to get an answer at all. And I ended up charging her, less than data recovery, because it was I just changed it to a no power solution. She leaves with a working phone. This is fantastic. Why is that possible? It's possible because of days like this, where I spent, entire days just like this. This happens all the time, where you really go down the rabbit hole and you're really investigating, probing and measuring and thinking, and then you realize something. And, like even this repair, who knows what's going to happen with this in the end? It's still on the, it's still on the wrong time. Let's see. And home button is still not working. But like this repair, what were the lines that were actually damaged? Capacitance sensors. So I don't have a real good understanding, I guess, as to what are those doing, but my guess is that there is a sensor which is in the home button itself, which is able to understand differences in your fingers' capacitance based on how hard you press. And I would think that would be very, very tiny differences. That if you were to press like this versus this, that it would be able to get a different number for those. And then it's going to translate that capacitance, send it down the wire to Turtle IC, and Turtle IC's job is to translate a capacitance sensor reading into ones and zeros that are going to go on through the home button connector onto the logic board. So I think now that you reflect on what does that line do and what does it really mean, you had to ask the question, how important is it for the resistance in that wire to be exact? You could make an argument that it may be really important, and that adding a trace wire that is fatter than the original trace, that one that kind of, that the original trace is still there, and now I'm overlaying really a second bridge wire, a jumper, that may change the resistance. Wire itself has some resistance. That may change the circuit in some way that makes its job of sensing capacitance from your finger and relaying that to the Turtle IC, that it may not be able to do that very well. My guess is that the two sensors are going to either control, or they're either going to be like a data and clock line, or control two different sides of a pad, or one is a top and one is a bottom, and that when you press it, those come to the middle. So that, again, like having a jumper wire that's longer on one side than the other, things like that, it could mess it up, so that even despite having executed trace repair, which I believe that we did successfully, it doesn't solve the problem. So, and how easy was it to just figure out what do those lines do? It would have taken me a long time to probe around and to map. I'd have to map from the connector and figure out all of the lines under Turtle IC. That would be extraordinarily long, and I wouldn't do it. It would be too laborious. But I love that I can go look and see that Ben already did that, and I can look it up and I can read it and be like, oh, look at that. And obviously my mistake here on this repair was I should have done that from the beginning. If I had, like looking back, then I would have been a lot more kind of judicious about the actual diameter and size of the jumper wire. And the other thing I learned on this repair is that for this particular flex, and the wire, this wire, this 44 gauge wire instead of vibrator wire, in the past all my tracer wire has been vibrator wire. This is quite a bit thicker, 44 gauge, who knew? That my micro pencil really had insufficient thermal mass to be able to make a nice joint very quickly. Switching over to the mini hot tweezers made it very straightforward, and it was fairly easy to actually place the jumpers. So if I could go back in retrospect and switch to either vibrator wire, plus micro pencil, or use the 44 gauge plus the the mini hot tweezers, then I think it would have been a lot more straightforward when I was just trying to jump across the actual tear. I also, now that I think about what is the capacitance sensor comparing to, that probably what I have just considered ground plane, it's probably more important than just ground plane. The giant torn chunk at the end of the flex on the side, this big piece is taken out of what is likely a important ground plane that these sensor lines are kind of measuring against. And so now having a big chunk out of it makes it have a very narrow trace on one side and is different than the other side. So all of those things kind of combine to really give you stuff to think about. And I wish now that I had looked up what the line did originally. I think that's the lesson here for this one. And for you guys, I think the lesson is to share your thoughts and information. Like, I will go back and I will post under this home button thread, you know, a kind of a wrap up of what I did here today, and that those two traces were torn. That looks like it could be a common fault, especially with her description of it being a way that you screw in the bracket or catches the bracket in a certain way. I think that's all makes a lot of sense. And that it's probably not worth pursuing for trace repair, and if you do, then really keep in mind that these are capacitance sensor lines and that you may need your ground, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, maybe this ends up being a turtle, I see. Hi Jessa, your website and your forum is better than the Rossman group site. Yay for serial tech. Let me read the end of chat here, and then I'm going to get the hell out of here and mark this day down as a big, fat, giant fail. So why don't you guys all make life a lot better by going over to iPad Rehab Forum, posting lots of great information that will make me feel like this day actually made a difference, and that we are gonna like find our way to solving some of these signature faults on these modern phones that are just coming off of warranty to make everyone's life easier. And I'll settle in by the fire with the snow and kids around and watch a Christmas movie and answer forum questions. That sounds pretty good. All right. You should just remove the home button. Send it back as an upgraded 10. That's pretty funny. Time is money. If you have time, then you know money. But it's always fun learning new stuff. Without knowing the phone, I would guess there is no additional sensor in the button and the IC does the sensing itself. It's a job most microcontrollers can do nowadays. Well, I mean, something's a sensor, right? I mean, a wire by itself isn't really a sensor. It must go to some kind of a large pad, you know, something like that. There's got to be a physical object that is actually able. I mean, like if you touch a home button on the edge, you know, you're not, the trace is itself connected to something that is a sensor and is conveying information. All right. Let's see. The ones I know calibrate themselves upon powering up and are pretty resilient against wire resistance or anything else which is static. Well, that's pretty good. Any solution for some error? Yes, spend a couple of days tearing apart a phone and figure it out, and then post. All right. Must I register before I can post? If you want to ask a question that goes like, hey Jessa, let me tell you about a phone and have you go walk me through what to think, how to measure, what should I, this is a place to learn. You know, if you want to just post if you want to post something that is community information, then go to the section called Community Knowledge Base and post away. If you're having trouble with permissions for that, I believe I did just start that new channel today, or the new section for that, so I need to probably go look at the permissions. I did it just before starting this video. But I have seen other people commenting in the water cooler hangout section that are not registered members. If you want to ask a question, then of course you're going to have to register and be a subscriber. If you start asking questions without registering and being a subscriber, obviously I'm going to kick you out. So the point is to have a place where people can both share information and contribute. A lot of people have no interest in being a subscriber and asking questions, but they want to hang out and they think it'd be fun to answer questions, then have at it. All right, let's see. Thanks for streaming. If you learned something, it's never fail. Oh, this is totally a fail. Fail! All right, time to get the hell out of here. I will see you guys on the forum.